Chapter 7. I spent much of the rest of the day fending off Mrs. Price, who wanted me to call my mother and persuade her to sign. I knew that would be a mistake. She didn't respond well to bullies. I had to believe that she would make the right decision and that she simply needed her own room to make it. The next day, when she returned with a large duffel bag in the back of the dark sedan, I knew she'd decided to let me go. Agent Jimez, carrying the bag, led her into a private room where I was waiting. He set down the bag and left. My mother hugged me. "This doesn't mean you have to go," she said when she released me. "It's your decision. What do you really want?" We sat in 2 armchairs across from each other. She leaned forward and took my hands. "I don't want to leave you alone," I told her, "but I do want to go." "Because going off into space seems like a fun adventure? Or because you want to accomplish whatever task they give you to take all of our problems away? Do you want to go for yourself, or to search for a cure for me?" "Both," I told her, which was the truth. She let go of my hands and leaned back. "I don't want to spend the year alone," she said. "You're all I have, Zeke. And I'm scared. I don't want to watch my days and weeks and months vanish forever, but I also know that's selfish, which is why I decided to let you do this." I was relieved, and also a little hurt. Maybe I wanted it to be a harder decision for her. "Are you sure you can get by without me?" "No, I'm not sure. But this is the most amazing experience you could possibly have, and I'd be a monster if I took that away from you. It's also your duty to your country and your planet, though I can't believe I just said that out loud. I won't be the selfish mother who holds on to her child despite the consequences to the world. The whole world, Zeke. They're depending on you to do this, even if they don't know it, and I can't stand in your way." I nodded. "And there's another reason," she said. She wiped at her eyes with the tips of her fingers. "What's coming for me is going to be bad. We both know it. But what keeps me awake at night is not how bad it'll be for me, but what it'll be like for you. You're too young to have to deal with taking care of me, how I'm going to become." She paused to take a breath. "Maybe what you do on this space station will help me, and maybe it won't. But I can't ask you to watch me fall apart knowing you could have helped. Could have at least tried to do something, but I wouldn't let you. If I do that, you'll come to hate me, and that would be worse than anything." I was feeling like I was on the verge of tears now. I knew she wouldn't mind if I cried, but I was a big boy space adventurer now, and crying seemed like a step backwards. "What are you going to tell people?" I asked. "They'll invent a cover story about boarding school, so you don't need to worry about that," she said, seeming to take comfort in discussing the organizational details. "Do you want to see what I packed? There might still be time if I forgot anything important." "I wish you didn't have to go into my room," I said as I walked over to the duffel bag. "It's kind of a mess." "Yeah, no kidding." I looked through the stuff quickly, and by all appearances my mother had done a great job. She'd sent me off with mostly jeans and short-sleeve shirts, but also a few long-sleeve shirts, a sweater, and my favorite Justice League t-shirt. She hadn't packed my ultra-cool 10th Doctor coat, but she had thrown in my ultra-cool Firefly coat and matching Firefly suspenders. She'd also put one of my Martian Manhunter action figures in there. She knew I would want it. It was like taking a piece of my father's memory to the stars with me. "There's one more thing," she said, and then she pressed a little cardboard box into my hand. Inside was a silver locket on a chain. I had never been much for jewelry, even less so for ladies' jewelry, but I decided that if I waited patiently, I'd get an explanation. "No, you don't have to put it on." She laughed and shook her head. "I never thought I'd have to give it to you." "What is it?" I asked. "I've never seen you wear it. At least I don't think." "No," she said, "but it's been in the family for a long time. When your great-great-grandfather went off to World War I, his mother gave it to him, with her picture and a lock of her hair. And when your great-grandfather went to fight in the Second World War, his mother gave it to him, with her own picture and her own lock of hair. When your granddad went to Vietnam, he got it, with your great-grandmother's picture and hair. And they all came home safe, so maybe the locket is good luck." I opened it up. Inside, there was a little picture of my mom and a little clasp of her brown hair with a single gray hair snaking through it. "I'm not going to war," I told her. "And thank goodness for that, but you are going far away. A little extra luck can't hurt." I nodded again. We stood, and I hugged her tightly as I could. "Thanks, Mom," I said. She smiled. "For what?" "For letting me go," I said. "For being cool about it. For raising me to be the kind of kid who could be randomly selected by aliens to spend a year on a space station." She shook her head and then said what we'd both been thinking. "Your father would be so insanely jealous of you." "Yeah," I laughed. "He'd be proud too, but also jealous. I'm just proud." "I haven't done anything yet." "You will. I know you will." And then she went over to the table where the release form had been left. She picked up the pen and signed with a trembling hand. I had tried to think about what this trip might do for her, and not what it would do to her. After we'd said our last goodbyes, Agent Jimez drove me, Mrs. Price, and Dr. Roop across Camp David. Of the difficulties Dr. Roop had getting comfortable in the back seat of the car, the less said the better. We passed several checkpoints, but were waved through each one. The windows of the car were tinted, and the soldiers never once glanced in the car's interior. I guess they'd just been told to see nothing. At last we drove into a hangar, and that was where I first saw the real spaceship. It was dull gray with no markings, and sort of rectangular and boxy in the way of TV sci-fi shuttles. But it had two protruding engines towards the back, and some truncated shuttle-type wings on the side, no doubt for in-atmosphere flight. The whole thing was about as large as a school bus, and to be honest, about as sleek. I understood it was designed to be functional, not impressive. Simply a practical tool for getting from here to there. But to me, it was unimaginably beautiful. Dr. Roop boarded up the ramp and through an opening in the double doors as soon as we arrived, but Mrs. Price told me to remain outside for a moment. She then proceeded to ignore me, sending out some last-minute emails from her phone while I stood there like an idiot, moving my duffel bag from hand to hand for something to do. After about 3 tedious minutes, a black car pulled up, and the president emerged. He walked over to me and shook my hand. "Zeke, I can't thank you enough for representing our nation and our world. I know you'll do the very best for us." "Thank you, Mr. President," I said, suddenly feeling like I was heading off on a suicide mission. I reminded myself that I was not. Hopefully. "This is one of the most important moments in the history of the planet and the country," the president said. "I wish you didn't have to make this journey in secret, but if you succeed, you'll be a hero to billions." "I just don't want to blow it for everybody," I said. Then I winced at my words. It was probably not how you were supposed to speak to the president. He laughed. "That's how I felt my first day in office. Actually, it's how I feel every day in office. I think the people who worry about blowing it in the end get the job done. The ones who are sure that they're the right person for the job end up making just a mess of everything." "Thank you, sir," I said. "I've also made my office available to your mother," he said. "If she needs anything while you're gone, we'll take care of it." I let out a sigh of relief. "I can't tell you how much I appreciate that." "It's the least we can do for you. She'll have the best care possible while you're away, and you'll be in good hands as well. Mrs. Price will do an excellent job." "Thank you, sir," she said. He shook both our hands again. "Good luck," he said. Then he broke into a huge grin. "You are the luckiest people alive," he told us, and then walked back to the car. Mrs. Price impatiently jabbed a finger towards the shuttle. That was her special way of telling me it was time for me to get on an alien craft, depart my planet of birth, and leave everyone I knew and loved behind.